Hello and welcome to Learning Canadian English, the podcast for newcomers to Canada. I'm your host, Jen.
And I'm Mike. Thanks for joining us for episode 47.
Today, we are talking about a very important topic, something almost every newcomer has to go through: finding a place to live. Specifically, we're focusing on how to talk to a Canadian landlord and, maybe most importantly, how to avoid rental scams.
That's right, Jen. This can be a really stressful process. You're in a new country, you might not know the rules, and you want to find a safe home for yourself or your family. We've both been through it, and we want to share what we've learned to make it a little easier for you.
Exactly. So let's start at the very beginning. You found a listing online that you like. What's the next step? It's your first contact with the landlord or property manager.
This first impression is so important. When I was first looking, I sent very short emails. Something like, "Is apartment available? I want to see."
Ah, yes, I did that too. And what happened?
Often, I got no reply. Landlords in popular areas get dozens, sometimes hundreds of emails. They're looking for a reliable, responsible tenant. A short, unclear email doesn't give them that confidence.
That makes sense. So what should our listeners do instead?
You should write a clear, polite, and informative message. Introduce yourself, mention where you saw the advertisement, and provide a little bit of information about yourself.
Right, so here are a few essential phrases you can use. You can start with something like, "Hello, my name is," your name. "I am writing to inquire about the one-bedroom apartment I saw advertised on website name."
That's a good start. Then you can add a sentence about yourself. For example, "I am a software developer and have recently moved to the city. I am a quiet and responsible tenant."
That's perfect. You are showing them that you are a professional and serious. It's also good to mention who will be living in the apartment. For example, "It will be just for myself," or "for my partner and me."
Yes, and finally, ask for the next step. A great phrase is, "Could I please schedule a time to view the apartment?" Then you can suggest some times you are available. For example, "I am available on weekday evenings after 6 p.m. or on weekends."
Remember to be polite. Using words like please and ending with "thank you for your time" makes a big difference. It shows respect.
Okay, so you've sent the great email, and the landlord has replied. You have a viewing scheduled. This is your chance to see the apartment and also to interview the landlord.
That's a great way to put it, Mike. You are interviewing them too. You want to make sure this is a good person to rent from. So when you are there, you should ask a lot of questions. Don't be shy.
Right. What are some of the most important questions to ask?
First, you need to understand the costs. A key phrase is, "What utilities are included in the rent?" Utilities are things like electricity, heating, and water. Sometimes they are included. Sometimes you have to pay for them separately.
That is a very important one. If utilities are not included, you can ask, "Could you give me an estimate of the average monthly cost for utilities?" This helps you budget.
Another good question is about laundry. You can ask, "Is there laundry in the suite, or is it a shared laundry room?" In suite means it's inside your apartment. Shared means it's for everyone in the building.
And it's important to understand the rules of the building. Ask about things like pets or smoking policies. You can also ask about parking if you have a car or bicycle storage.
Finally, you need to ask about the lease. The lease is the legal contract you sign. A good phrase is, "What is the lease term?" Usually it's a 1-year lease, but sometimes it can be month to month. Also ask, "Is tenant insurance required?" Many landlords require you to have it.
While you're there, take a good look around. Check if the water pressure in the shower is good. Look for any signs of problems like water stains on the ceiling. And take photos or a video, but always ask the landlord first. Just say, "Do you mind if I take a few photos to help me remember the place?"
Absolutely. Being prepared with these questions and observations shows the landlord you are a serious and responsible person. It also helps you make a truly informed decision. And while you're looking at the big things, don't forget the small details. For instance, open the kitchen cupboards. Look for any signs of pests, like droppings. It's not a pleasant thought, but it's better to know before you move in. Also, check the cell phone reception in the apartment. In some concrete buildings, it can be weak. Imagine moving in and then realizing you can't make phone calls from your living room. It's a small thing, but it can be very frustrating in your daily life. Okay, so you viewed the apartment, you've asked your questions, and you love it. What's next, Mike? That's a great modern tip, Mike. Another thing to check is the noise level. If you can, try to visit the apartment at different times of the day. Is it on a busy street with a lot of traffic noise? Are the walls thin? Can you hear the neighbors upstairs walking around? You can even ask the landlord, how is the sound insulation in the building?
Now comes the application. The landlord will likely ask you to fill out a rental application form. This is standard practice, so don't be surprised. They'll ask for personal information, your employment details, and references.
Now, we need to talk about something less pleasant but very, very important: rental scams.
References are very important. They are people the landlord can call to ask about you. It's a good idea to have a list of references ready. This could be your employer, a former landlord if you have one, or even a teacher or community leader who knows you well. Always ask your references for permission before you give their contact information. Yes, it is so sad, but there are dishonest people who try to take advantage of newcomers. It nearly happened to a friend of mine when she first moved to Toronto.
What happened?
She found a beautiful apartment online. The pictures were amazing, and the rent was much cheaper than other places in the same area. This is the first red flag, the first warning sign. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Right, a classic warning sign.
So she contacted the landlord, who said he was a doctor working overseas and couldn't show her the apartment in person. This is the second huge red flag. He said she could just drive by to see the outside.
The "I'm out of the country" excuse. This is very common in scams. They create a story so you can't meet them or see the property properly.
Exactly. Then he asked her to wire him the first and last month's rent to his bank account in another country, and he would courier the keys to her. He was putting a lot of pressure on her, saying other people were interested.
That's the third red flag: asking for money before you have seen the apartment and signed a lease. And the fourth is creating pressure, trying to make you act fast without thinking.
Luckily, she felt something was wrong. She talked to a coworker who told her it was a scam. She never sent the money. The scammer had just copied photos and details from a real estate listing and pretended it was for rent.
That is a scary story, but it has a good ending because your friend trusted her gut feeling. So, to our listeners, let's be very clear. Rule number 1, never, ever send money to anyone for a rental before you have visited the property in person and signed an official lease agreement.
Yes, always meet the landlord or property manager in person. If they can't meet, ask if a friend or representative can show you the unit. If they say no, walk away.
And trust your instincts. Your intuition is a powerful tool. If something feels strange or wrong, it probably is. It is better to miss one apartment than to lose thousands of dollars.
Okay, so let's imagine you've found a great place, you've met the landlord, and it's all legitimate. Now it's time to talk about the lease and how to communicate once you are a tenant.
The lease is a very important legal document. You must read it carefully. I know it can be long and have confusing legal words, but you need to understand what you are signing.
That's right. Make sure everything you discussed with the landlord is written in the lease. If they promised you a parking spot, make sure it's in the document. If you have a question, just ask. You can say, "Could you please clarify what this section means?"
And once you move in, good communication is still key. My advice is to always put important requests in writing, usually by email. This creates a record.
Yes, that's a professional way to handle things. For example, if your kitchen sink is leaking, you can write an email. A good phrase would be, "Hello, landlord's name. I'm writing to report a maintenance issue in my apartment. Unit, your unit number. The kitchen sink is leaking."
And you can add, could you please let me know when a repair person might be available to look at it? This is polite and clear.
This also applies to when you decide to move out. You must give your landlord notice, which means officially telling them you are leaving. The amount of notice you need to give is usually in your lease, often 60 days.
Right. A formal way to say this in an email is, "Please accept this email as my formal notice to vacate. As per our lease agreement, I am giving my 60 days notice. My last day in the apartment will be date."
Putting things in writing protects both you and the landlord. It prevents misunderstandings.
Let's also talk about tenant rights. Once you sign that lease, you have legal rights. For example, your landlord cannot enter your apartment whenever they want. They must give you proper notice, usually 24 hours in writing, unless it's an emergency like a fire or a flood. This is your right to privacy.
Wow, we've covered a lot today, Jen, from the first email to moving out.
We have. I hope it was helpful for our listeners. Let's do a quick summary of our key recommendations. First, be professional and polite in your communication from the very beginning. Second, ask a lot of questions during the viewing. And third, and most important, be very, very careful about scams.
That's a perfect summary. And one last tip. Every province and territory in Canada has a landlord and tenant board, or a similar office. Their websites have official information and rules about renting. We'll put a link in our show notes. It is a very reliable source of information.
An excellent point. Don't be afraid to look for help and information. Finding a home in a new country can be challenging, but if you are prepared and cautious, you can find a wonderful place to live.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to Learning Canadian English.
Join us next time when we'll be talking about slang words you might hear at a Canadian coffee shop. You won't want to miss it. Goodbye for now.